Welcome to my channel. Please enjoy the video. Aretha Louise Franklin was born on March 25th in 1942 to her parents, Barbara and Clarence Franklin. She was delivered at the family's home. And see, guys, Franklin was only 12 years old in 1955 when she had her first son. His name was Clarence. And see, Clarence was named after her minister and activist father, the Reverend C.L. Franklin. So MGM throws in the towel and sends Aretha Franklin's biopic Respect to streaming, facing $30 million in a write-off. However, it wasn't a secret that Aretha was raped at a young age. They could have even taken the time to show how she was affected by her sexual abuse, being that she was 12 and pregnant. The movie jumped from being pregnant at 12 to her singing in a church. They kept saying you have demons, but there was no substance there. There's a reason why that was something to focus on in the movie. And if you guys seen the movie, it was not accurate to me, in my opinion. See, like the scenes where those late night parties, her pregnancy as a preteen, in reality, that showed a lot about her father within itself. See, that's my point. Just as Aretha was actually raped at a young age, there were actually GAY people partying at the family home. So showing that that was not part of some agenda. And yes, all the talk of demons in dark places was very annoying and shallow to me. Let's get more into who C.L. Franklin was. So C.L. Franklin was a Baptist minister and a circuit preacher. Originally, he was from Shelby, Mississippi. Like Aretha's mother, Barbara Franklin, her father had already had a child from a prior relationship, a daughter named Carl Ellen Kelly, and she died in 2019. He had fathered the child with Mildred Jennings. See, Mildred Jennings was a 12-year-old member of his congregation. When he was just 25 years old, he got Mildred Jennings pregnant. So by the time Aretha turned 5, C.L. Franklin had permanently relocated the family. Aretha also had 3 other siblings to Detroit, Michigan, where he took over that pastorship of the New Bethel Baptist Church. And see, at that time, her parents had a very difficult marriage due to her father's infidelities, and they were eventually separated in 1948. Her mother passed away from a heart attack in 1952 when Aretha was just 9 years old. C.L. Franklin's highly charged sermons led him to being known as the man with $1 million voice. He also earned thousands of dollars for preaching in various churches across the country. He also became friends with Martin Luther King Jr., Jackie Wilson, and Sam Cooke. On Sunday, June 10, 1979, C.L. Franklin was shot twice at point-blank range in what was reported to have been an attempted robbery at his home. He remained in a coma for the next 5 years. The Franklin children moved him back into his house 6 months after the shooting, in which he received 24-hour nursing care. He died on July 27th of 1984. He was just 69 years old in Detroit's New Light Nursing Home. So a little spoiler, guys. So in the scene of that party, it was never revealed who was actually Aretha Franklin's baby's father or the father of her son Clarence. However, news has been going around that allegedly Clarence Franklin, Aretha Franklin's father, is allegedly the father of the son. Now, in the movie, the father, played by Forrest Whitaker, brings her downstairs to a party full of famous people and asks her to sing for everybody. Now, clearly in the movie, in a later party scene, Aretha Franklin was a preteen. Aretha was preparing to go to sleep in her bedroom, and an unnamed man enters and closes the door and says that I'll be your boyfriend. Later, we see the little girl in a silhouette, now with a round belly of pregnancy. In my opinion, the scene is fairly elusive in what it really suggests about the specifics of the Franklin's early life and early pregnancy, but clearly hints at a much darker chapter of her life than many fans ever knew. So, what really happened? In real life, Franklin gave birth to 4 boys: Clarence Franklin, Edward Franklin, Teddy Richards, Caleb Cunningham, and Clarence, her firstborn, who was named after the singer's father. He was born just 2 months before her 13th birthday, and she had Edward, her second child, 2 years later at the age of 14. And see, guys, Franklin herself never revealed the identity of the father of either of the boys, but in 2014, David Ritz, called The Respect Life of Aretha Franklin, claimed that the father of her oldest son was Donald Burke, a boy she knew from school, but there was no suggestion in the biography that the pregnancy resulted from a non-consensual encounter, or as the movie suggests, as its critics have observed, that she was a victim of statutory rape. However, even that detail was called into question in 2019 after Franklin's death, when the three-handed wills were written out and it was discovered in her home, including one in a notebook wedged between her couch cushions. When Franklin died in 2018, her family believed that she had no will, and her sons have argued in court over the authenticity of those documents. But one of the wills states that Clarence's father was Edward Jordan Singer, with whom she also had a second son with, Edward, in 1957. Little was known about Edward Jordan Sr., and Franklin rarely discussed her first 2 pregnancies. So Ritz's biography also does identify Jordan Sr. as a player whom Franklin once knew. So that will, which you can read, and you can pull that up online if you'd like, and it also clearly spelled out that Jordan Sr. should never receive or handle any money or any properties belonging to Clarence, because he's never made any contribution to Clarence's welfare, future, or past. Twice it was underlining under that word never in emphasis, okay? So Aretha was specific about her wishes or whatever that was on that document. And though Franklin's estate would have originally been divided equally among her 4 sons, discussions about those documents, the validity, has complicated that battle over her. And I just feel it's a lot of dark mystery to that, and she did what she wished. Okay, guys, so this is what allegedly is being stated or stated about past the movie, onto the family life and what happened in the home and with the church and with her dad. So perhaps most complicated of all of this is that they're saying that she came from a home where her father was very promiscuous, and he was a gospel preacher, and his church was a front for orgies. And see, they're even saying that Ray Charles was to describe this as a sex circus. So, questionable was his behavior that when Franklin became pregnant at the age of just 12 years old, her sexuality apparently awakened by the scene of her father's promoted, that rumors swirled around Detroit that the preacher was the father to her child. Now they're saying throughout her life she tortured her sisters and brothers, producers and managers with her tantrums and her rages, and she was very jealous. This is what they're saying about the Queen of Soul. Hastings Street is ground zero for Aretha Franklin's story, David Ritz wrote. He said, quote, "It was the point to where Saturday night merged into Sunday morning and sin manifested into salvation at the crossroads. This American musical culture, they were high on the Holy Ghost, dancing in the aisles of New Bethel. The saints celebrated the love of Christ. High on weed and wine, the party people celebrated the love of the flesh. It was like saintly blues at the night and bluesy gospel in the morning, and the churches and the clubs were right next to one another. Ray Charles, who began on the R&B circuit in the early 50s, ran into the gospel's groups on the road. Ray Charles then went on to say, when it came to pure sex, they were wilder than me. And that's saying something. In those days, I had a thing for orgies, but I had to be the only cat in the room with 2 or 3 chicks. Honey, Ray Charles went on to say that the gospel people didn't think that way. The cats that liked it with the cats and the chicks that liked it with the chicks. And no one-minded mix-up this way or that. Baby, so the musician and R&B, rock, soul, and gospel singer, Billy Preston, who backed up Ray Charles, and he said he was witness, and he was on the scene of that bitch. And he went on to say it was anything goes. In the community outside the church, gay men were called sisters. But inside the church, a lot of music was created by gay men. So in the church, you were almost proud to be part of the gay elite of the musicians. Detroit was the urban center for the 40s and 50s. That was the destination of the Southern blacks migrating in hopes of moving economically as well as finding social mobility. So the preacher, C.L. Franklin, was established. He was a star in the ministry, and his daughter, Aretha Franklin, became his partner and joining him traveling with his ministry when she was just 12 years old. Perhaps unsurprisingly, given her father's scene, she was sexually precocious and thrilled to jump right into adulthood with a passion for sex equaled by one for food. They say she was crazy about bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwiches. That was the greater singer-songwriter Sam Cooke who crooned his way into her heart with the song You Send Me. She was so crazy about Sam, and she joined him in his hotel room in Atlanta. She was 12 years old, and he was 23 years old. So that's what they're stating, and they're saying that Sam later said he enjoyed a lot more than Aretha's voice, honey. 2 months before turning 13, she gave birth to a baby boy named Clarence after her dad. Once again, rumors swirl that her own father was the father of her first child, but they're saying that it was David Burke, a guy she knew from school. Now remember, guys, Aretha was very close with her father, and she was traveling with him at the age of 12. So I'm trying to figure out, how did she have time to see a boy from school? Because when I was first getting into this commentary and they were saying how she was traveling with her father and she was very young, I thought to myself, when did he even have the time to even register her into school? Did she even go to school? And this is what I was thinking. However, doing this research and doing the video, comes to find out, now they're saying that it was a little boy from school, which how they described everything, in my opinion, she had no time to go to school, and I don't even think she was going to school. That's just my opinion. So now they're saying that Aretha was driven into the arms of multiple sexual lovers, not only by the Holy Ghost music making, but sex scenes by other insecurities she had. So after her own mother Barbara left her father CL because of his promiscuity, and then moved back to Memphis in 1948. Okay, and I think the mom was very upset about learning about the 12-year-old in his congregation who he also impregnated. I believe that had a lot to do with her escaping him and leaving. Aretha Franklin never accepted the loss of her mother and the mother figures, so she began idolizing the relationship of her own father and mother as being perfect. So apparently, Franklin's obsession with becoming a famous singer led her into the arms of the slickest pimp in Detroit. His name was Ted White, and he had several other lovers and, other chicks and other singers, on the side. So he introduced her to alcohol and weed and molded her into his type of lady that he wanted her to be. So Aretha Franklin's sister Carolyn said that Aretha at one time was with White. She was drinking so much that she thought she was going to have a breakdown. So in the 1970s, she got her drinking under control with the help of her road manager, Ken Cunningham, when she fell pregnant again, having moved with her manager, and she still saw Dennis Edwards for sex only. Her sister Carolyn added that she was afraid she wasn't good enough as a singer. She felt she wasn't pretty enough as a woman or devoted enough as a mother. I don't know what to call it, but it was very deep insecurity she had, that Carolyn said. So her style was either to drink away her anxiety, or when that stopped working, she'd just disappear for a while, finding bearings and go right on stage and wear the crown of being the diva. So Aretha Franklin had a lot going on, guys, and this story is really deep. However, it is full of mystery that she never came out and stated who the first son, Clarence's father, was, but she named the son after her father. Okay, so as we know, in 1979, if you didn't know, she married Glenn Turman, and she wanted to be an acting coach as well as a companion, but the marriage quickly soured, and she used false stories in magazines to suggest that it was a happy marriage, and Glenn Turman, came out and said that it was not true. It was a terrible marriage. Allegedly, okay? Now, Aretha Franklin's son's birth certificate, and I'm talking about Clarence, not Edward, and Clarence, once again, is named after her father. She had that birth certificate allegedly sealed. Now my thing is, if all of the other boys' fathers were accounted for, well, 2 of them, okay? Because they're trying to say that maybe 2, but they're focusing on Clarence, not Edward as much. Because Edward was born when she was 14, so it was shortly after she had that baby at the age of 12. Then she turned 13 and then ended up pregnant at 14 years old. And like I said, guys, math don't lie, dates don't lie, and we don't have those. But how they described at the time, she was so busy in the church and she was with her father. He had a congregation, he was a preacher, and she was singing on going on the road with him. And once again, guys, I'm not trying to say that it's a fact, but how did she have time to see any little boys if she was traveling with her dad at that young age after her mother passed away? Okay, 1 + 1 = 2 and 2 + 2 = 4. And that's all I'm going to say as far as that topic goes. But however, guys, Edward Jr., which they allege, or Aretha told everybody that Edward Jr. was Edward Jordan's father. Okay, but why did she name Edward Jr. Edward Franklin? She just gave both of the boys her last name, and that's not a big issue. However, I was just wondering, why didn't she just, if you're calling him Edward Jr., why not just, name him Jordan after Edward Jordan? Okay, that's not important, but I'm just looking at things and trying to analyze. That's all. Because, guys, I'm going to point out something. If you're listening to this commentary, and if you can't put the puzzle together, rewind the video back. Now, they stated on the movie, right? Now, I seen the movie, the biopic, and they stated that Aretha Franklin was going to bed, and she was a preteen, and then they say an unknown, unnamed man came into her bedroom and said, "I'll be your boyfriend." That does not sound like a schoolmate. That sounds like a grown man, not a little boy from her school. You see how they put things out, and then once you pick up the whole puzzle and you start putting all the jigsaw puzzles together, the pieces of it, it does not match. There is more to this. Okay, so if she was going to bed, why is her schoolmate coming into her room saying, "I'll be your boyfriend"? But they said it was a man, not a boy. So these are lies. So guys, I'm going to have to come back with a part 2. So give me more time to do my research and come to a final conclusion in my opinion and analysis about this whole situation, because there are a lot of dark secrets and things that need to be brought up to the surface, and we're going to do that here on Sweet Tea TV. Stay tuned for the next video. Hey guys, thanks for watching my video. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell.